This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Mom, Dad, I'm not throwing shade, but the whole New Year's resolution thing, kind of slipping, no offense. Anyway, my best friend Jenny's dad, crushing it. He uses Blue Apron. He says he ordered one-pan assemble and bake meals and these things called meal kits. They're all super easy to make. He keeps yelling, protein and fiber, baby. Also, the food, we tried it. So good. So maybe you check it out or whatever. Blue Apron. Get $50 off your first 2 orders plus free shipping with code STIR50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies, that's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends. Same adorable designs in different cuts for each of you, all made from their signature ultramodal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 5-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST. That's MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.
But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity.
1.21 gigawatts! 1.21 gigawatts! Great Scott! What the hell is a gigawatt?
Hello, guys, and welcome to another new episode of Hollywood Gold. I'm your host, Daniela Taplin Lundberg, and I'm here with my right hand, Vanessa Mandau.
Hello, everyone.
We're about to dive into another new episode about Back to the Future, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. I can't believe we got this one.
It's incredible.
Vanessa, I love how we got this one, too. Yeah. It was pretty rad.
I mean, I fully just emailed his lawyer.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, Bob's available. We'll do it. I was like, how did we make this
Once
happen?
in a while, a cold call works, guys.
It
That's the lesson
works.
to all of us.
The worst thing they can do is ignore you. So
It's so funny because I think in my mind, Back to the Future just seemed like a surefire hit from the get-go. Mm-hmm. And in fact, it had so many things that went wrong and it almost didn't get made. So I love this story so much, including, I mean, guys, they shot for 6 weeks with another actor, which is so insane. And then they stopped shooting and brought in Michael J. Fox. I mean, it's crazy stories like that make me believe that we can still get things made. You know what I mean?
Totally.
They got through that.
The most iconic movies of all time having to go through stuff like this is just very encouraging.
Yeah. But it's also about being brave. And I love that they were brave enough to make the pivot and they knew that they had to make the change or else the movie wouldn't have been as successful.
Yeah, I think that's just good producing and that's good filmmaking. It's like you can identify the problem.
That's right. Yeah. So let's get going with the great Bob Gale.
Let's do it.
Hi, Bob.
Hello. How are you, Daniela?
Oh my gosh, it is so great to meet you. I'm so excited to be talking to you.
Well, okay. I'll try not to let you down.
So Bob, I think Back to the Future, I'm sure you're still surprised at how probably every person in the world has either seen it or heard of it. And even now, so many years later, and it's one of my all-time favorites. And so I'm so excited just to sort of dive into it and start with, where did it all begin for you? What is your first memory? And we'll go from there.
Bob Zemeckis and I had always been fascinated by time travel, starting all the way back from when we saw the George Pal version of The Time Machine in 1960, and then seeing it in various episodes of The Twilight Zone, The Outer Limits, and comic books and whatnot. So we're always kicking around the idea of doing a time travel science fiction story. And one of the things that fascinated us was always how people predict the future so incorrectly. We loved seeing all the imagery of the 1939 World's Fair and then We both attended the 1964 New York World's Fair, and they were promising us flying cars and all these things that we don't have. This beautifully designed world. And we thought, wouldn't it be interesting to do a story where a character ends up in that world? And the working title was called Professor Brown Visits the Future. So even in the 1970s, when we were thinking about this.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's what
his last name was Brown.
Okay.
So we were never able to figure it out. It was a great idea. It was a great thought. And interestingly enough, somebody else went and made that movie, and it was called Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Sure.
So if you go back and watch that, you'll say, oh, okay, this is a guy having an adventure in the Norman Bell Jetty's designed, Raymond Lowery designed future that we were all promised. So we put it on the back burner. We'd revisit every once in a while. Never figured out an angle for it.
And how are you and Bob friends, Bob?
We met at USC Film School in 1971.
Oh, I love that.
We were both undergraduates in what was largely a graduate department. There were 47 kids in our class, and only 20% of us, meaning 9, were undergraduates. And undergraduates all had similar attitudes about film. We wanted to make Hollywood movies. We put a premium on storytelling, and the graduate students were all into the French New Wave and, Jean-Luc Godard and all this stuff that we couldn't give two rats about. So,
and just out of curiosity, where were you from? Like, where were you from originally that you decided?
I'm originally from St. Louis.
Okay.
And Bob Zemeckis is originally from Chicago.
Okay.
So we both had this common Midwest upbringing. And Bob was the first person in my life I'd ever met who owned the original soundtrack album to one of our very favorite movies, The Great Escape. We bonded over that. And, it turns out that now, this many years later, over 50 years later, when we look back at what people consider to be what is the greatest movie of 1963, The Great Escape is usually on the top 5 of those, if not number 1. It holds up beautifully. It's a perfect movie. So anyway, that's how we met. That's how we bonded. We were excited about talking about the new, Dirty Harry and James Bond. And,
love it.
And that stuff. But we both were big fans of the classic Disney animation. We loved watching the Disney show on Sunday nights, especially when Walt took us behind the scenes of some production going on.
Cool.
And of course, as we learned more about Walt Disney, we discovered that Walt was, one of the greatest story editors in the history of Hollywood. He just had that instinct. He knew what made a story work. And, you watch today, if you watch animated classics like Dumbo and Cinderella, these are flawlessly designed stories and screenplays. And today, those are still 2 of my all-time favorite movies. I just love
100%.
how beautifully they are structured. And of course, Dumbo being as subversive as it is, we love that.
That movie is so heartbreaking. You're right.
Yeah. And it's just so crazy to say, all right, the elephant gets drunk and that's what gives him his superpowers,
Maybe you couldn't get away with that today.
I don't think they could. I don't think so.
So, okay. So back to this notion of the original idea, you kind of tabled the one that you had. So then what happened?
So it was just sort of always, we'd go back and revisit. It's like every so often we'd pull stuff out of the drawer and say, well, let's kick this around. Maybe something happened. So I go back to St. Louis in the summer of 1980 to visit my parents and to promote the movie Used Cars, which we just finished making for Columbia Pictures.
So cool.
And there had been a flood in St. Louis that summer. And my father had salvaged a bunch of stuff from the basement. And he handed me this box. And he said, Bob, go through this box. This is stuff that didn't get damaged by the water. See what is worth keeping in here. So I'm going through this box and I find my father's high school yearbook, class of 1940. And I attended the same high school that my dad did 29 years later. I'd never seen his yearbook before. And I thought, oh, this could be interesting. See what my high school looked like in 1940. And I'm thumbing through it and I discovered my dad had been the president of his graduating class.
You never knew that?
Had no idea. No idea.
Wow.
So here I am. I'm looking at this picture of my dad looking very, prim and proper and, serious. And I'm thinking about the president of my graduating class, who was this guy, one of these rah-rah Sochi guys who I never had anything to do with. Didn't vote for him, didn't like him. I thought to myself, was my dad that guy? Was that who my dad was in high school? If I had gone to high school with my dad, would I have been friends with him? And that's when the proverbial bolt of lightning hit me.
Got the chills.
I said, there it is. There's the time travel story that we've been trying to figure out. Kid goes back in time and ends up in high school with his dad.
Bob, I have tears in my eyes right now because lightning bolts, oh my God, it changed the course of your life. It's unbelievable. Okay, so keep going. So then what?
And so, and let me say this, that this is an example of how ideas come to you when you're not least expecting. You are, Ray Bradbury is one of my literary heroes. And when I first transferred to USC, he was the guest at the speakers program that they had, first guest. That's how I knew I'd made the best choice of going to school. Okay, Ray Bradbury's speaking. I'm there, dude. I'm there. And Bradbury said, getting an idea is like trying to behead the Medusa. If you face the problem straight on, you turn to stone. But if you creep up on it sideways or you're just kind of not looking, you might nail it. So this is a beautiful example of that. Beautiful example of that. So when I came back to California, I told this idea to Bob, and he got all excited. And he said, yeah, what if your mom went to the same high school and all the things she said she never did, he did? And we just started cooking on this.
It just was like Pandora's box. Suddenly it was just like it opened up.
Yes, it opened up. This was a time travel story told from a completely different perspective, a perspective that we weren't aware had ever been done before, because it's about a family and it's not about, the physical, we're going to change history, we're going to travel through time, all that kind of stuff. So once we had kicked around enough ideas to where we said, okay, this is the story. The time machine has to come from somewhere. We don't want him to get hit on the head and suddenly find himself in the 50s. We don't want him to make a wish and find himself in the 50s. It's got to be a machine, because we grew up in the 50s and 60s. We're techno kids. Technology makes it believable. And of course, the specter of the H.G. Wells time machine, always in the back of our minds, that it's a time machine. So we always knew it had to be a machine. And so that's when we brought back Dr. Brown, who was originally called Professor Brown in those days. And he would be the guy that invented the time machine. There is a legend in American folklore that somewhere there is a sole inventor who in his garage invented the internal combustion engine that can get 250 miles to the gallon and runs on salt water. But he can't get the invention to market because the oil companies and the car companies don't want us to have that, right? And another guy invented the reusable match. Well, the match companies don't want us to have it. And that idea was explored beautifully in a movie called The Man in the White Suit, starring Hal Guinness. Healing comedies of the 50s.
Learning so much here. Oh my God. Okay, I'm writing it down.
He invented a fabric that was indestructible and never got dirty. And it was white and always stayed white. And everybody hailed him and then suddenly realized, oh no, this is going to put everybody out of business in the clothing business. So it's a wonderful comedy.
Oh, good.
So anyway, that's who would invent time travel. We didn't want time travel to be invented by the Defense Department or the government or by, North American Rockwell Corporation. It had to be Renegade because, you think about that. You say, well, we don't want the government to be working on time travel. That is not a good idea. We don't want corporate America to have time travel. That is just as terrible of an idea. So Doc Brown is the guy who invented time travel. And after we put enough of this story together, we contacted Frank Price, president of Columbia Pictures, for whom we'd made used cars.
Okay.
We had a wonderful relationship with Frank. Frank just passed away several months ago. But Frank had told us that even though used cars hadn't made a dime for the studio, he loved the movie so much. He said, when you guys have your next idea, please come to me. I want to hear it first. So we took him up on it because we thought, okay, who would we rather work for than Frank Price?
And I heard he was a great man, by the way. Other people have mentioned him on this podcast.
Oh my God. Yeah, he was terrific. He's the only studio executive who was a writer. That's why writers always liked him, because he could talk story. He could understand if a story was working or not working. He knew it.
Yeah.
And he was very low key. He was a gentleman. He was great.
Okay, so you basically pitch him the notes?
Yes.
Okay.
And he gets it in like 30 seconds, maybe 60 seconds. He's there. He completely understands it. And Bob wants to keep telling him more ideas. And I kept elbowing Bob saying, shut up. He gets it. He's gonna make the deal.
He already said yes. He's ready to check.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah. Okay.
So this is September of 1980, to put this into context. So we get a deal to write. We didn't have a title for it yet. So the deal memo says, Zemeckis and Gale Project, untitled Zemeckis and Gale Project.
Okay.
And we go off and we write this. And the first draft was finished in February of 1981. We turned it in the studio. They gave us notes for a second draft, which we turned in 5 or 6 weeks later, dated April 1981. And then suddenly they decided they didn't want to make the movie.
Oh.
Yeah. They said, now, you know what? The tenor of the times has changed. People are looking for raunchier comedies like Porky's and Stripes. And we think this is just kind of not the kind of movie we should be making right now.
Oh, my God.
Now, in all deference, this is the second draft. The Time Machine is not a DeLorean yet.
Okay.
There are a lot of things in it that are not as good as what is in the movie that we actually made.
Okay.
But nevertheless, the core story about Marty and his parents and interrupting their relationship, and Lorraine, who was at that time called Eileen or Mary Ellen, I forget which. Mary Ellen, I think.
Okay.
She had more name changes than any other character. The first draft, she was Eileen, named after a high school girlfriend of mine. The second draft, Mary Ellen, named after Bob's wife. And when we finally brought the movie over to Universal, Sid Sheinberg, president of MCA, said, change your name to Lorraine, because he was married to Lorraine Gary of Jaws fame. And so this is what men do, right? We honor the women in our lives.
Okay, so they decided they didn't want to do it, and they gave it back to you. You guys could go shop it?
Yes, so we shopped it. We shopped it, and we shopped it, and we shopped it, and we basically heard 2 responses when they were specific.
Okay.
Other than the usual, it's a great script, but it just doesn't fit our needs at this time.
Sure.
Standard death by encouragement rejection letter. But the concrete notes that we got, one of them was, this is a time travel project and time travel movies don't make any money, which was, in the early 80s, an absolutely true statement. There was not a money-making time travel movie. Maybe the Time Machine broke even in 1960. I don't recall. I should look it up because I tell the story so much. I should know what I'm talking about. But none of these time travel movies that have been made up until ours had ever made a dime. So we couldn't argue with that. I can't go to the head of my company and say, I want to make a time travel movie, because he's going to say, what are you thinking? They don't make money. So, right. Okay. The other note we would get is it's very sweet. It's very nice, like we were told at Columbia, but we're looking for something raunchier. Why don't you guys take this to Disney? Why don't you guys take this to Disney? And we heard, why don't you guys take this to Disney many, many, many times. Now, we didn't want to go to Disney because this is Disney that made The Black Hole. This is Disney that made Herbie Goes Bananas. This is Disney that made Condor Man. These are movies that define mediocrity. And this was the last vestiges of Walt Disney's own family running the studio. And we didn't really want the Disney brand on this because the Disney brand was not respected at that time. But we wanted to make our movie. So Bob and I looked at one another and said, okay, maybe these guys are right. Maybe we should go to Disney. So we submit to Disney and we go take a meeting with an executive there named Thomas Wilhite. And we walk into his office. Wilhite looked at us with this look of shock and disdain, saying to us, are you guys out of your mind? Do you think that Disney would make a movie like this? This is a movie about incest. You have the kid and his mother in a car? That's just horrible. We could never do this.
Oh, my God.
So the movie that everybody else in Hollywood thought was too sweet and too nice was just too filthy for Disney to give us the time of day.
So shortest meeting in history? Did you just were you like, should we wrap this up or?
That was pretty short. It was pretty short. There was nothing else to talk about after that, right? I'm surprised he actually met with us, but I respect him for that.
Sure. The time to say it to your face.
And always the rule that says always take the meeting.
Right.
Because you never know when you might meet somebody in a meeting and you just say, okay, this project isn't the one I'm going to do with this person, but maybe sometime down the road I will.
Bob, I'm really like your pearls. I've written down several, but always take the meeting. I mean, that's another one. You're so
always take the meeting. That is just, that's like should be engraved in granite. That is such an important.
Well, no one does it anymore. And by the way, sitting in person, it's like a lost art. But anyways, here we are.
Right. Now, there was one guy who really appreciated the script who got it. His name was Steven Spielberg.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Guys, if someone handed you financing tomorrow and said, cool, now go make your feature, would you actually know how to schedule it, budget it, break it down in a way that doesn't spiral into chaos? If that makes your stomach drop a little, you're not alone. And that's exactly why Film Parliament exists. Film Parliament is an online course built by a working producer to teach filmmakers at any level how to actually plan a feature film from the ground up. No gatekeeping. No pretending this stuff is intuitive. It's a clear step-by-step walkthrough, prepping a script, scheduling the shoot, and building a professional budget. You can use your own script or the example one in the course, and by the end, you don't just understand budgeting, you have a finished schedule and budget you could literally take into production. It's a one-time purchase. You get lifetime access, and it includes the exact feature film budget template the instructor uses on real projects, explained line by line so you know where every dollar actually goes. The vibe is very much knowledgeable friend, not film school professor. It's made for people who don't have a mentor but want to stop guessing and start moving their projects forward. And right now, listeners can get 10% off with the code GOLD10. So if you've been waiting to feel ready to make your film, this is how you get ready. Head to filmparliament.com to learn more, or go to our show notes to check out a link.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can be a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help you find options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies, that's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends. Same adorable designs in different cuts for each of you. All made from their signature ultramodal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 five-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST. That's MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.
Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Think, McFly. Think.
Now, Bob and I had made 3 movies with Steven. Our first movie, I Want to Hold Your Hand. He was the executive producer.
Okay.
But we had met Steven through a writer named John Milius. Lesson to all your listeners, there is a documentary called Milius. I think it's on Netflix. Yeah, you got to see it. If you want to understand filmmaking in the 70s, that is the quintessential documentary about filmmaking in the 70s.
So you were in that crew with Milius and Coppola and all those guys. Oh,
yeah. Well,
God, Bob.
We were the latecomers.
Okay.
We didn't know Coppola that well.
Okay.
We really didn't. But Milius was the guy that gave us our first break.
Oh, my
We'd written a script right out of film school about some guys that pull a caper by stealing a Sherman tank outside of Chicago and driving it up to the Standard Oil building and holding the Standard Oil building for ransom because one of the characters had his land taken away from him by the Standard Oil Company.
Oh, my God.
We gave it to John, and John loved it. And he appreciated our sense of social irresponsibility. And he said to us, I want to do for you guys what Francis Coppola did for me. And Coppola was the guy who hired John to write Apocalypse Now. And John had just made a movie called Wind and the Lion at MGM, another great movie, which should be on everybody's list of great movies to see. And MGM was so happy with it that they gave him a 4-picture deal. 2 of the movies John was going to write and direct, and 2 of them he would produce and maybe direct, but shepherd other writers. So one of those slots he wanted to give to us. And he said, you guys have an idea that would fit my sensibilities? And we told him that we'd come across this story about a false alarm air raid in Los Angeles in the early days of World War II, where everybody in LA thought that the Japanese were bombing us and went completely out of their minds. And he knew about this because John, being a history buff, he said, that's it. That's what we're going to set up at MGM. So that's the script that we wrote for John. Now, this is 1975, and Bob and I were just 2 years out of film school, and we had no filters. So we're writing stuff that no one in their right mind would even think of, which is, let's have a dogfight on Hollywood Boulevard. Let's have a Japanese sub appear off the coast of Santa Monica and blow up the Pacific Ocean amusement park. And so we're writing all this stuff that a seasoned writer would always say, oh, no, that's too expensive.
How are you going to do
We're not
that?
going to do that. But we said, oh, yeah, this would be great. We'd like to see this. We'd like to see that. And of course, John thought this stuff was great. So after we'd had a draft of this, John gives this script to his friend Steven Spielberg. And Steven reads this, and the scripts that Steven has been reading don't have any crazy stuff like that in it. So the very craziness of the things that we put in this script attracted Steven to do it.
Yeah.
Steven had just made Jaws, right? So Steven was God. And
yes,
he reads the script and he says, I love this. He said, I'm in pre-production on Close Encounters of the Third Kind right now. But this is going to be the next movie I make after Close Encounters. 1941.
Oh, of course. Oh my God. Brilliant.
So Stephen actually flew us down to Mobile, Alabama, where he was shooting Close Encounters to do rewrites on 1941. At the same time, we had pitched a movie about girls trying to get on the Ed Sullivan Show to see the Beatles in 1964. We pitched that to Warner Brothers.
You guys were a font of ideas. Like, what an incredible duo you were. I mean, I love every single idea you're pitching. I would take them all.
While we were in Alabama working on these rewrites of 1941 for Stephen, we got the call from our agent saying, hey, good news, Warner Brothers made a deal for these music rights. You can come back to LA and write. It was called Beatles Forever at that time, and we had to take the word Beatles out of the title, and it became I Want to Hold Your Hand. We were in business with a pair of female producers at Warner Brothers, and so we went, after we finished our rewrite of 1941, we went back and we wrote a draft of I Want to Hold Your Hand. And Stephen asked to read it, and he said, Bob Zemeckis, you should direct this. This is a perfect movie for you to direct. Bob said, yeah, I know I should direct this, but Warner Brothers has this policy against first-time directors. What do I do? And Stephen said, I'll sign on as executive producer and tell them that if you get into trouble, I'll be your backstop. They still didn't want to do it, even with that. So Stephen, under the table, submitted it to Universal, and Universal said, yeah, we'll do this, but you guys got to get it out of Warner Brothers. Now, it's totally not kosher to do that.
Totally. My God, you guys were all rock stars, like rebels. I love it.
We weren't rock stars. Stephen was the only rock star. Zemeckis and I were just these two young punks just trying to make a name for ourselves. So it went all the way up the ladder and said, look, these are careers that could get started from this. Please put this in turnaround and let them set it up. They did. It was Frank Wells, who was the CEO at Warner Brothers at the time.
Another good guy, right?
Another Frank who helped us out tremendously. And so then we got I Want to Hold Your Hand set up at Universal. Didn't do a dime's worth of business, but there's a beautiful Criterion Blu-ray.
It's in the Criterion collection? Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Bob, just so you know, my stepdad is David Ward, who wrote The Sting.
Oh, my God.
And my father is John Taplin, who produced Mean Streets and The Last Waltz. And so I grew up in LA at I was kind of like
around
aware of all
this kind of stuff. Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, and for me, this is like the stuff. Like, I just want to hear every nook and cranny of it. So you can't, I am your perfect audience. Okay. So Stephen liked Back to the Future. Jump back to that.
So during the process of working on 1941, Milius told us a story that he and Stephen wanted to do about used car salesmen on the outskirts of Las Vegas. That people would drive to Las Vegas, they would sell their cars to get money to gamble. They would lose their shirts, and then on their way out, they'd go to the same used car lot and buy some really crappy beater of a car because that's all that they could afford. We thought this was a brilliant idea. Nobody ever made a movie about used car salesmen before.
Oh my God.
So after we did I Want to Hold Your Hand, we went to John and Stephen and said, look, you guys are never going to do this. Who better to make this movie than us?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. You guys, yeah. We'll be executive producers and you guys make used cars.
Oh,
so
love that.
We first set it up at Universal, and they decided not to make the movie. And then the guy that wanted to make the movie was Frank Price at Columbia, because in Frank's early days, Frank had actually sold cars. He'd been a car salesman.
Oh my God.
So he got every joke and every nuance and every thing that we were trying to capture in this screenplay. So we get to make used cars for Columbia. Kurt Russell and Jack Warden are the stars.
Love it.
Again, available on a beautiful Blu-ray, and it has one of the best commentaries that you will ever hear.
My list that you've given me is extensive. It's extensive.
And that commentary is Bob, Kurt Russell, and myself, and we had critical mass that day. It is just balls out.
Oh, balls out, great.
Insanity. Yeah. It's Quentin Tarantino rates that as one of the best commentaries.
No way. Oh, yeah. One of the best commentaries?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
gotta listen.
So there it is.
Gotta watch that.
So there it is. So given your background, you have to listen to that.
I'm gonna really appreciate that. Okay. This is so good.
So here we are with Back to the Future, and Steven loves the script. He said, I will help you guys make this. And we said to Steven, look, I want to hold your hand. We've made Used Cars. We made 1941. And you've been involved in all three of them, and none of them have done well. And if we were to make another movie with you and it doesn't do well, that would probably nail our career to the cross. We'd be gone.
Yeah.
And Steven said, you guys are right. You would be the guys that only work because I give you a job. And that's not a good idea, which we knew it's not a good idea. So, but he said, if you guys change your mind, let me know. So this is 81 and 82. We set up another project to write, produce, and direct at ABC's Motion Picture Division, which was a short-lived division. It was a gangster movie, took place in the Roaring 20s. Pretty good script. They market tested it out of existence.
Okay.
They came to us and told us, our marketing people have told us that nobody wants to see a gangster movie.
Okay.
We're giving this back to you. Just like I'm sure the marketing people told Steve Jobs, nobody wants an iPhone, right?
Right.
So Bob was getting cabin fever, not having directed since Used Cars. And he said to me, look, I'm going to take the next decent script that comes along. It was a script called Romancing the Stone.
Oh my God.
And he got the job because Michael Douglas was a huge fan of Used Cars. And he saw Used Cars and he said, this is the guy I want to direct this movie.
My mind is blown. Okay. This is great.
Bob goes off. He makes Romancing the Stone. It's a big hit. Everybody and his uncle wants to be in business with Bob Zemeckis. So once everybody said, yeah, Bob, we'll make whatever movie you want to make, Bob said, we have to go back to the guy that always believed in the script. We have to go back to Steven. And so we went back to Steven, and Steven had now made E.T. He'd set up Amblin Entertainment at Universal. And this was a perfect fit.
Yes.
We were, I believe, the very first Amblin Entertainment movie. Steven gives the script to Sid Sheinberg, who was the chief operating officer of MCA. Lou Wasserman was CEO, but also the president of Universal Pictures. And Sheinberg loved it with a few notes, including the name of the woman, the girl, Marty's mom.
It's got to be Lorraine.
Got to be Lorraine. And we set the movie up at Universal in May or June of 1984. And then we were off and running, except that we weren't, because the guy that we wanted to play Marty McFly was Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
And Michael J. Fox was booked and locked up on Family Ties. And we could not get him out of his show. Meredith Baxter Birney, who played his TV mom, was pregnant at the time. And the producer, Gary David Goldberg, said, listen, guys, this is a great script and it's perfect for Michael, but I can't let him see this script because he'll want to do it and he'll hate me for not letting him do it. And I can't let Michael out of the show because with Meredith going to be having a lot of episodes that she's not going to be in, Michael's going to be carrying the show.
Oh my God.
So that was our first attempt to get Michael in the movie.
And were there other people you guys were considering? Like, was it cast contingent?
Believe me. No, it wasn't cast contingent. They would make the movie. I mean, yes, of course, it was cast contingent. We weren't going to make the movie with somebody that the studio hated.
Yeah. Okay.
Some of the actors we saw Johnny Depp, we saw Ben Stiller. C. Thomas Howell was the runner-up. Eric Stoltz, of course. You probably know the story. We ended up shooting 5 weeks of the movie with Eric Stoltz at the request of Sidney Sheinberg, who was convinced that Eric Stoltz was the perfect Marty McFly.
You guys shot 5 weeks with Eric Stoltz.
We did.
And what was the moment that it was suddenly this is right?
Stoltz had made a movie at Universal called Mask, directed by Peter Bogdanovich.
Great.
It's a very good movie. Stoltz is great in it.
Yeah.
He does the whole movie with this prosthetic all over his face. He plays this kid who has this birth defect that deforms his face. And it's a very, very good performance. And Sid Sheinberg felt that if he could give a performance with all those prosthetics on his face, he could do anything. So we screen tested Eric, and we also screen tested everybody and their uncle. We brought in an actor named George Newbern from Chicago. That was his first trip to Hollywood and started off his career. He became a regular on TV series, the name of which escapes me at the moment, but you can look it up.
Yeah.
And it came down to Eric Stoltz and C. Thomas Howell. And we all loved the screen test that Tommy Howell did, and we were ready to cast him. And then Sheinberg saw the two screen tests, and he said, you got to put Eric Stoltz in this movie. This kid, Tommy Howell's no damn good at all.
Oh, my God.
We couldn't believe he was saying that. And Bob Zemeckis kept arguing with Sid about this. Bob said, I don't think Eric's got the stuff. I don't think he's got the humor. I think I can get the performance I need out of Tommy. And Sheinberg, in a moment of bravura, in a moment of total self-confidence, said, I am so certain that Eric Stoltz is going to give you a great performance that if it goes south, you will have my permission to start the movie all over again with somebody else.
No way. Oh, my God.
So that's the type of guy Sid was. He was very cocky. He was very full of himself, but he was also a truly honest man. Sid never bullshitted you. He never lied. He always told you the truth, for better or worse. He was blunt. He told you what was on his mind. And sometimes what was on his mind was crazy. Like he hated the title Back to the Future. He wanted us to change the title.
What was it? You got to tell me. It's all new to me.
All right. I got to tell. Okay. He just kept saying, change the title. And we go, yeah. Because everybody else loved Back to the Future as a title. Finally, we get a memo from Sheinberg that he had come up with the absolute perfect title for the movie. Spaceman from Pluto. Yeah, Spaceman from Pluto. And here are some adjustments you can make in the screenplay to reflect this new title. Because we have the scene in the barn where the kid has the comic book called Space Zombies from Pluto. This is what inspired Sid. So change the title of that to Spaceman from Pluto. We have the Darth Vader scene where Marty says, I am an extraterrestrial from the planet Vulcan. And Sheinberg said, change that to planet Pluto. And for George's novel at the end, A Match Made in Space, change the title of that to Spaceman from Pluto. I get a copy of this memo. Zemeckis gets a copy of the memo. Spielberg gets a copy of the memo. And so Bob and I are white. We're in horror. We realize how serious Sid is.
It's in a memo, and he's gone through the script. That's wild.
So we each take our copy of the memo, and we walk over to Stephen's office. And Stephen has a copy of the memo too. And we go, Stephen, he's serious. And Stephen said, yes, he is. And we say, what are we going to do? And Stephen thinks about it, not for very long. But Stephen knew Sid very, very well, and he knew exactly what to do. And I have always said that Stephen earned all of his money by just knowing what to do in this moment. Stephen goes out to where his assistant is sitting and says, please take a memo to Sid Sheinberg. Dear Sid, all received your hilarious memo of October 18th, whatever the date was. We thought we got a big laugh out of it. Keep them coming. And Stephen knew that Sheinberg would be too embarrassed to admit that he meant it as anything other than a joke. And that was the end of it.
Oh,
that was it.
My cheeks are hurting. That is so good.
I've never seen purple underwear before, Calvin.
Calvin, why do you keep calling me Calvin?
Well, that is your name, isn't it? Calvin Klein? It's written all over your underwear.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states.
Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies, that's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends. Same adorable designs in different cuts for each of you. All made from their signature ultramodal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 five-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST. That's MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.
If we could somehow harness this lightning, channel it into the flux capacitor, it just might work. Next Saturday night, we're sending you back to the future.
Tell me about the moment for you when you're realizing that Stoltz, you've shot for 5 weeks. Because, like, to me, Bob, as a producer, that would just give me such agita. The idea that you've got to go start from the beginning and you've got to just take all the stuff you've shot.
What we were doing while we were shooting was we were rationalizing things. We would say, okay, he was good in that take, and he was good in that take. And when we cut it together and we put in, some reactions from Doc Brown or from Leah Thompson, it'll be okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, one Saturday, Bob calls me 5 weeks in and calls Neil, and he says, guys, I think we have a black hole in the middle of our movie.
Oh, God.
I want you to see this footage. And Bob and I had always had an agreement on our other two movies that I would never see cut footage until there was a full rough cut so that I could react to the whole movie from beginning to end. So I knew it was serious if he wanted me to look at cut footage at this stage of the game. So on the Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, Neil and I joined Bob in the Hamlin screening room, and we watched 40 minutes of footage with Eric Stoltz. And it was not good.
Oh.
It was not good at all.
Was it just dramatic? Was it too dramatic? Like, what was the...
Yeah, it was.
A good actor.
He was just not... He's a good actor, but he wasn't funny. He didn't get the humor. And we subsequently learned that he had told Leah Thompson, and they had done The Wildlife together.
Sure.
So they were friends. He told Leah Thompson that he saw this movie as a tragedy because at the end of the story, Marty comes back to a world which is completely different for him. He has a completely different past.
He was making a different movie.
He was just not able to embrace the fun and the silliness of it all.
Yeah.
So, Neil and I totally agreed that we didn't have a movie here. And Bob said, we need to show this to Stephen and to Frank Marshall and Kathy Kennedy. So we had them come in and see the movie on Sunday. And they all 100% unanimously agreed that we had a problem. And we had to do something about it. And again, more brilliant and wise counseling from Steven Spielberg. Steven said to us, right now, this is going to be a secret. We don't tell anybody that we're going to change the lead actor. We're not going to tell anybody we're going to change the lead actor until we have a replacement. Because if you go to Universal, if we go to Sid and say we're going to shut down the movie, they may decide to cut their losses and not start it up again.
Right.
So you guys have to keep shooting while we try to find the replacement.
Oh my.
And the other thing Steven said is the replacement cannot be C. Thomas Howell, because Sid will accept the fact that Eric is not any good, but he will not accept the idea that he could have been so wrong about Tom Howell. So you can't go back to Tommy Howell.
Brilliant.
So we said, well, it's many months since we first went to Michael J. Fox. Maybe we can get Gary Goldberg to change his mind.
Has Meredith had the baby? Like maybe things.
Meredith has had the baby.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. She's back on the show.
Yeah.
So we went back to Gary Goldberg, and I can't remember the exact specifics of how this all happened, whether it started first with a phone call from Steven to Gary, and then Bob, Neil, and I went into Gary's office, and I remember literally getting on our knees saying that we need Michael in this movie. And Gary said to us, and he understood because he loved the script, and he understood what this would mean to Michael's career. And he said, I'll tell you guys what. He said, if you will agree to rearrange your shooting schedule around the Family Ties shooting schedule so that we can finish our season uninterrupted and get Michael after we finish our days on Family Ties and make your movie under those circumstances, I will go to Michael. I will let him read the script. And if he says yes, you're Marty McFly. And Michael's got a new book out called Future Boy, where he tells all these stories from his perspective. And he says he never even read the script. He just said, Gary gave him the script and he said, this is the best script I've ever read. Yes, I'll do it.
No way.
And this took place during the 6th week of our shooting, which was like the first week of January, 1985. And we're still shooting with Eric Stoltz at Twin Pines Mall. The crew starts to realize something is up because Bob isn't covering the scenes the way he would normally cover.
Shooting less.
Thinking about what can I shoot here that I will be able to use later on with a different actor. So his coverage starts to change a little bit and his shooting plan starts to change. And then we get the message that on Wednesday of that week that Michael has agreed to do it. Or maybe it was Tuesday. Yeah, it was Tuesday. And then on Wednesday during the day, we went into Sheinberg's office and we showed Sid the footage with Eric Stoltz. And it was all 6 of us, Stephen, Frank, Kathy, Zemeckis, Gale, and Canton, all in his office saying, we have to do this, Sid, we have to do this. And Sheinberg couldn't argue with us because he knew he was on record telling all of us that we could start all over again. And it wasn't like we were starting with Joe Blow. We were starting with Michael J. Fox.
Yes.
Who's the star of the #2 television series in America.
Oh my.
And he said, go through the script, cut out everything that you can cut to make it cheaper so that we don't have to redo every single thing that we did.
Yep.
Which ended up turning out to be a blessing in disguise because that opening scene where we just have the camera explore Doc's lab, that wasn't in the original shooting script. That's not how the movie started. And we came up with that to save a set.
Oh my God.
Started in a classroom. We didn't have to build the classroom set because we did this.
If you had cast C. Thomas Howell, this probably would not have happened. Like, in a way, it's like the crisis created the best, it's one of the great.
Right. It's like, I would say that if we had made the movie with C. Thomas Howell, the movie would have been very good.
Yeah.
Would it have been as good as with Michael J. Fox? no one can know.
But yeah,
we knew that Tommy would have given a really solid performance. He had good comedy chops. He had good instincts. Bob could direct them. We'd seen the screen test. The crew had seen the screen test. They all thought this kid could be Marty McFly. So on Thursday of that week, we got the message that Michael J. Fox has signed on, and Bob gave Eric the bad news at our lunch break.
Oh.
And then we made the announcement to the crew. You guys thought we were going to wrap this movie at the beginning of March? No, it's going to be April now.
God. So was it a seamless transition? Did you guys go down at all, or was Michael just on set on Monday?
Seamless transition. Michael was on set on Tuesday.
No.
We shot around Michael on Monday because he needed to have wardrobe fittings and things like that. Deals had to get signed and so forth. But Michael reported for work on Tuesday night at Twin Pines Mall. And there was this moment. People often ask me, what is your favorite moment of making Back to the Future?
Yeah.
That was it. Michael J. Fox, first night that he comes to work. And the crew wasn't sure if we knew what we were doing. Because who does this?
Right.
Nobody does this, right?
Insane.
You don't fire an actor. You might fire an actor after a week, but after 5.5 weeks, it's not done.
Totally.
You replace an actor after somebody dies, but not this. This is unprecedented.
The only other one who had done it was Coppola with Harvey Keitel and Martin Sheen, right? On Apocalypse.
Right. That's the
only
other
other time I've heard that. I've done so many of these interviews, but it's wild.
Yeah. How many weeks did Coppola shoot with Harvey Keitel?
Like a month.
Okay. Well, I think 5 weeks is more than a month, isn't it?
So when you remember getting your first shot with Michael, was it an immediate feeling where oh my God, we're saved?
Oh, there was no question about it.
Yeah.
It was like we'd been watching the movie in black and white through a dirty windshield. And then suddenly, oh my God, here it is. It's in Panavision and it's color and it's beautiful and everything's in focus and it's sharp and it's funny. And the crew you could just feel the whole energy change. The whole energy just changed. And we had Marty McFly. Michael J. Fox was this guy.
What a miracle.
Yeah, it was. It was.
So was the rest of filming kind of like a breeze from there because you guys had the
no
ringer?
Of course it wasn't a breeze. Are you?
Sometimes you go through hell and then it's it kind of
no
the gods allow you to
we went through a hell, the rest of it was purgatory.
So why? Tell me.
Well, look, we're shooting. We don't get to work with Michael J. Fox until 6 p.m. Right?
Oh.
He's doing double days, so we don't get to shoot with him until 6 p.m. And on Fridays, we don't get him until 10 p.m. because they shoot in front of a live audience. And then Fridays were always all-nighters. We shot one Saturday because we needed a daylight scene. And there was one other time when we shot the interior Doc Brown's house, which was a green and green house called the Blacker House in Pasadena. This house was beautifully appointed. It was the way Green and Green had designed it. It was owned by a widow of a railroad executive who didn't know how to manage her finances, and she had to sell the house. So we shot the movie while the house was for sale, but during the switchover, during the weeks that we recast, the house had been sold and was in escrow. So we thought, oh, shit, the new owner isn't going to let us shoot in there. We can't take a chance. So we went back to her, and she said, yeah, of course you guys can shoot in here while the house is in escrow, but it's in Pasadena. And in Pasadena, they don't let you shoot past 10 p.m. So we had to shoot during the day. So Neil and I went to Gary Goldberg and said, here's our situation, Gary. We need Michael for 2 days in the daytime. And he gave us Michael for a Monday and a Tuesday, which were their lightest rehearsal days, so that we could shoot all that stuff with the brainwave machine and your brother disappearing from this photo. All that stuff was shot in the daytime on 2 days that he gave us. And then at some point in March, we had 1 week of hiatus. I think that was at some point in February. And then in March, before spring break happened, Family Ties wrapped. We had them full time by the time we went back to Whittier High School and shot all the high school scenes, which you could only do when school is not in session.
Was Michael surly? I mean, he was working double days. He must have been so exhausted, or was he just so keen that it was just like he was excited to do?
There were times where he didn't know what he was doing.
Oh my God.
And, we just say, stand here, walk here, do this. And there were other times when it kicked in, you get your second win. You know what that's like.
Yeah.
Being a producer, so you're falling asleep at 9 o'clock, and then at 11 o'clock, suddenly you're wide awake and you're good till 3 o'clock in the morning. So I don't think, except on Friday nights, we never went as late as 3 o'clock in the morning, but we did go to 1 or 2 a.m. on some nights.
So most of the film was shot on the lot. Is that right?
Yeah. The vast majority was shot on the back lot. Yeah.
And the square was on the back. It was on the back lot.
The town square was on the back lot. And since we're talking about filmmaking, and since you're a producer and you'll respect all this stuff, Bob Zemeckis did not want to shoot on the back lot. Directors don't want to shoot on the back lot.
They want the real.
You want the real thing. And we considered shooting the movie in Petaluma, California. And we actually did a recce up there.
Mm-hmm.
And our production manager said, guys, and our production designer, the great Lawrence Paul, who had designed Blade Runner, I think won an Oscar for Blade Runner. They both said, look, you don't want to try to do this because we have to replace all the street lights with period lights. We have to buy off all these businesses. Shoot it on the back lot. And Bob kept saying, I want to shoot on the back. And finally, Larry said to us, did you know that the hot dog scene in Dirty Harry was shot on the Universal back lot? And we said, what? You're kidding. He said, no. He said, watch it again. And you'll see that that's New York Street when Dirty Harry, comes out of the diner with chewing on the hot dog, and the bank robbers have their car crashed, and he walks up to the guy and he says, did I fire 6 shots or only 5? That's all on the back lot of Universal. So we watched that and we said, shit. If a production designer can make the back lot of Universal look this good, and Larry Paul, designer of Blade Runner, is telling us he can make the town square at Universal look that good. Okay, let's shoot it on the back lot. And thank God we did that because we owned the back lot.
Right. You could go back as much as you want. Brilliant. Oh.
So we could go while we were waiting to get Michael J. Fox at 6 o'clock. We would shoot the skateboard chase with our stunt guys, and we would shoot these elaborate shots because we had time to do that. We had the ability to do that, and we owned the back lot. So blessings in disguise. It's such an important lesson that people have to learn about. There's a saying I'm really fond of. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plan.
Totally.
And that's the story of this movie.
Oh.
If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Right, God.
And here we had this shooting schedule, and those were our plans. And God just laughed and laughed and laughed. And somehow we made this movie.
Those are monstrous issues that you guys got over. Were there other things that stood out to you as just huge nightmares? I just want to hear it.
Oh, Daniela, you're a funny woman.
I just want to hear it all.
Well, we had this automobile called the DeLorean.
Yeah. Tell me everything.
And there's a reason why the DeLorean car company went bust. It's not a good car. And as bad of a car as it was in its stock version, it's an even worse car when you put 900 pounds of time travel stuff on the back of the car. The car could accelerate from 0 to 60 in about 15 minutes.
How many of them had you dressed?
We bought 3 of them. Okay. We bought 3 of them early on. Now, we'd never seen one except, in ads and, the ill-fated Johnny Carson story about him being the first one to get a DeLorean and he got locked in it and he couldn't get out.
No, I never heard that. I never heard that.
Yeah, that's pretty great. That's a pretty great story. So we get these cars and we realize they're really small. They're so small, we can't get a camera in them. Today, of course, you can get a GoPro in them. You can get your iPhone in them. You can get any little digital camera in them that you want. But back then, we're dealing with Panavision equipment. Can't get the camera in the car. So we had the A car, the B car, and the C car, and we actually literally cut apart one of the cars, the C car, and all the shots that you see over Marty's shoulder driving the car or on the process stage, the camera's in the car shooting Michael profile, and you see the scenery going by. That was shot on stage, on process stage, with the C car, because that was the only car that we could use to do that. And we use that car in the sequels as well.
Okay.
So we had 2 cars, A car and the B car, that were fully dressed. The A car was dressed a little bit better for the close-ups, and the B car a little less so for the second unit and for the driving shots.
Okay.
But the car was always breaking down. We had to do these flame trails. We had all kinds of stuff that the car had to do. And the car is not built in the slightest to do car stunts. You can't do screeches and skids and reverse 180s and all the stuff that the stunt guys needed to do. They were just constantly replacing stuff on the suspension and rebuilding elements of the car and taking things off the car. So that was a nightmare. And then, by the way, when we looked inside the car at the speedometer only went up to 85. Because this was in the days when Congress had mandated that cars should only go up to 85 to save gasoline. They could go faster, but the speedometer would only go up to 85. So all those shots that you see, inserts of the speedometer where it goes up to 95, we made that template and put that over the actual speedometer.
What a pain. What a pain.
So yeah, was it easy after that? No. And then, so we're shooting the movie and we're shooting around everybody's schedule. We're getting everybody is a trooper and doing it. And finally, by middle March, we have Michael J. Fox full time. And that part of the show was, in Back to the Future terms, it was the easiest part of the show that we did because we had a regular daytime shooting schedule and we were able to do all this stuff. So we finished shooting the movie right around April the 9th, I think it was. And we have a summer release date. Studio wants the movie in theaters on July 18th. So we have 2 editors now. By the time we hired Michael J. Fox, we knew we're going to need a second film editor if we're going to make these dates. So we have 2 film editors, and 2 weeks after we wrapped principal photography, we had a finished cut, and we had our first sneak preview in San Jose. And it was a movie that was 7 minutes longer than what was finally released. But we put this movie in front of an audience and they went out of their minds. It played so well. And they didn't know what they were going to see.
Yes.
All they knew was they were going to see a movie with Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. We did not have a trailer. We did not have a teaser. All we had was a title, Back to the Future, starring Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. That's all the audience knew they were going to go see. And there's the moment when Doc Brown does his experiment with Einstein the dog, and the dog disappears. And there was this very uncomfortable hush in the theater because people were worried that something bad had happened to that dog. And when the dog comes back, there was a sigh of relief. And Doc at that point reveals that it's a time machine. Nobody even knew it was a time travel.
Oh my God.
And the point in the movie when the audience totally got it was when Marty sees George McFly in the diner. And you could just feel it in the theater. Oh my God, this is great. This is brilliant. I've never seen this movie before.
Oh my God.
The audience was absolutely with it from that point to the very end.
Oh.
They just went crazy. They went crazy.
Oh.
I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet. But your kids are gonna love it.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies, that's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends. Same adorable designs in different cuts for each of you. All made from their signature ultramodal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 five-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST. That's MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.
You know, I was in Santa Barbara. I was probably 12 years old. My parents told me we were going to the movies, and I'll never forget sitting down and just being completely blown away and being like, that's the best movie I've ever seen. The movie made a monstrous amount of money.
Grossed $200 million. It was the number one movie for 11 out of its first 12 weeks. The second weekend gross was higher than the first weekend gross. It played until March 1986. And then at some point, Universal came to us and said, we want to talk about a sequel. And we said, we don't want to do a sequel. We're real happy with the movie that we made. And because people always say to us, you guys must have known you were going to do a sequel because of the ending of the movie. And we said, well, no. That's a very satisfying ending. The heroes ride off in the sunset for another adventure. That's classic. That's a classic Hollywood ending. And Bob Zemeckis has often said, if we knew we were going to do a sequel, I would have never put Jennifer in the car because we didn't know what we were going to do with Jennifer later on. But anyway, so we said, we don't want to do a sequel. And Universal said to us, let's put this a different way. Scheinberg said, this studio is going to do a Back to the Future Part 2. And you guys can either be on the bus or off the bus. But this movie is happening. And we didn't have any kind of power at this point to stop it. So we said, okay, if that's our choice, we're going to be on the bus. With this caveat, we have to have Michael J. Fox and we have to have Christopher Lloyd. Yeah. Because if Universal can't make deals with those guys, we will not make Back to the Future Part 2 without both of those guys. The studio agreed with us. They said, you're right. They made The Sting too, as you know, with Jackie Gleason and Richard Pryor. And it was just a disaster. So you can't do that. You can't go right. Look at all of our Jaws sequels. At least they all had the shark in them, right?
Well, Bob, thank you so much for doing this with me. I mean, I feel like we answered so many questions in like the telling of the story. And so I feel like I generally ask, why do you think this movie has impacted people the way it has for as long as it has? And I feel like it was just part of that question you answered in that it was completely unexpected.
Well, but it's also because the movie is about something everybody thinks about. When I said earlier, it's not a time travel movie, it's a family movie. It's about a family.
Yes.
We all think about the what ifs in our life. What if my parents hadn't gotten together?
Yeah.
What happened on my parents' first date? Did dad ask mom out? Did mom ask dad out? Was it a blind date? What if they hadn't gone out?
Mm-hmm.
All those type of things. Every human being on the face of the earth. It doesn't matter your generation. It doesn't matter your culture. These are core human elements that we all share. And Back to the Future deals with these in a way that had never been really dealt with like that before. Everybody can identify with it. Everybody can think about those things, can say, oh my God, yes. Oh my God, look, what was my young father and what was my young mother? What were they like? These are all things that just kind of get you in the gut. And what if something had gone wrong? So this is the power of Back to the Future. And, when we made it, we just thought it was a really good story. We didn't recognize that we were doing anything that had anything profound about it. But as we look back on it and we think about it and we get older, Bob and I were not parents when we made the movie. And just like when you watch The Godfather again, after you're a parent, you see things in it that you never saw
100%
before you were a parent. And Back to the Future the same way. And so kids see the movie and they respond to all the fun and all the action sequences and all the craziness. And all the adults watch it and they see this whole other layer that's in there. And we just were, why do people still like the movie? Because it's honest. It's honest. You see movies today and you say, okay, some executive in their office said, here's the checklist. We need this, we need this, we need this. That's why Korean cinema is so great, because they just make the movies over there. They just say, people say, well, how are people going to respond if we don't have some minority people in there? And I say, well, did you watch Squid Game? Did you see Parasite? Did people have any problem understanding those movies and responding to them? No. It's just good storytelling and it's honest. And that's what we did. We made the movie that we wanted to make because we wanted to see this movie. And if there's one thing I would leave everybody with, aspiring filmmakers, storytellers, don't try to pander to the audience. Write something that you want to see, because then you have a better chance that it's honest and it'll come from your heart. And maybe it'll have that extra magical something that will make a reader respond to it.
Bob Gale, that was perfect. You were a legend. Thank you so much for taking this time with me. I really had such a good time. I could sit here for hours and just pepper you with questions, but we'll meet again, sir. I promise.
Okay, Daniela.
Thanks a lot.
Enjoy talking with you.
Okay.
You're very knowledgeable and I appreciate your pedigree.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Bob.
Okay.
Speak soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Well, we're going, we don't need roads.
So, Vanessa, that was so fun. He's such a great raconteur. That guy can really tell a tale.
Yeah, he just came off of a tour of, the anniversary of the movie.
So all the stories are really fresh.
They're fresh, and he's also just so good at telling them. I think he knows exactly what the audience wants to hear. I was on the edge of my seat. He's a real storyteller.
Oh, I love the story about switching out Michael J. Fox for Eric Stoltz, but I also love the story of how problematic the DeLorean was.
It's amazing.
Do you you know about the DeLorean? Like, are you aware that this was like a car that was meant to be like a Ferrari, and then this was a total disaster?
Just for the audience, I am younger than Daniela, so we have to double check.
But this is a generational question.
No,
I mean, I think for like those of us who are over 40, the DeLorean was like, it was meant to be a great car, and then it was just a complete disaster, but they had already chosen it for Back to the Future. And so it created so many issues for them, and I just loved hearing those things as a producer.
It's amazing. I also think it's great that a car that was supposed to not work generally ended up becoming so iconic that there's probably a lot more DeLoreans sold just for people to have as, you know.
Totally. But like no one could drive them because they just like broke down all the time. They
found another use.
Yeah, totally. They're like in all the Hard Rock cafes.
Yeah, they're
across the country.
That's all you can ask for.
But that was I loved hearing about that. And then I also loved, I think at the beginning, Bob was saying that like all the movies at that time were sort of gross out comedies. They were like Meatballs and like Porky's and like these movies that were very different in tone, and no one wanted sort of like a family oriented, more PG-13 type film. And so it was like they couldn't get it made. And I'm just like, that's insane to me. This is obviously just like such a 4-quadrant movie. Who wouldn't want to make this? So.
I mean, there is like a little bit of an incest storyline, and he talks a lot about that and how it's
a little dicey.
It's dicey, but it's brave and it's daring and it's asking interesting questions and
handled so well. With
well.
Like such humor, which is the way you have to handle incest.
But it's great. It's like if I was a little kid and I was inventing a way to go back in time, and then, you know, like that's how that would happen, right?
Yeah.
It's like you would see mom and dad, and you know, it's like it's just feels so inventive, and it's so smart.
He was a great storyteller. He stayed on longer than I think he had anticipated, but we're so grateful. I mean, love that guy so much. Awesome. I hope he comes back because he's got a lot of tales to tell.
A lot of tales. He's made a lot of movies. He's definitely iconic and has worked with some of the best people in the business. So definitely has a lot of stories to tell.
That was a good one. All right, babe. Well, you do the wrap up.
All right. Like and subscribe. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Apple. We are on Spotify. Follow us on Instagram. Go on YouTube and watch some of our episodes there. You can also get some of our merch on our website, staygoldfeatures.com. Hit the merch tab and stay gold, everyone.
Don't forget to stay gold, guys.